Uber's UU is a power level below Uber's, and that currently goes for its community. The Uber's UU community has been a grassroots operation since its inception last November, and this is a far contrast to the Uber's tier we're related to. This tier has been around since nearly the inception of Smogon, and many of the players and leaders in that community have been around for generations. This lets them build up their game sense. They can look at any tier, any format, and any set of Pokemon, they'll probably do well. But exactly how well could they do? Did they just enter a tournament for an unknown meta, prep with their friends and people they know, and topple a community? Let's find out. On March 10th, 2024, the Uber's UU Epic Ladder Gaming Tour was announced. This tour would come in two parts, a ladder qualification round and a final bracket round. By playing and doing well on the Uber's UU ladder, players could qualify for a knockout bracket with a $200 prize pot. For 4 weeks, 8 players would be accepted. Those 32 players would be whittled down until just one remained. The heavy hitters in Uber's UU came out to play for this tour. Immediately, you had council members such as Imperial and Leo Justice qualifying. Top tournament competitors like Espat, 4th place in Uber's Swiss, Big Fat Mantis, 1st place in Uber's UU Open, Fatty, 2nd in Uber's UU Open, and PTK Mokyun qualified. Week 2 was similarly packed with top talent like Rash, Fushi, and Finchley. Week 3 started to see a decline in the tippy-top talent entering, but that let some of the broader community qualify. I was even one player away from qualifying myself. In that final week, FC snuck his way in at 2nd place for the week. Let's take a look at this guy and the rest of his tournament record. FC is one of the most decorated and invested players in Smogon, its tiering, and the competitive singles environment as a whole. When you visit a player's forum account page, you can see their badges, and holy moly, FC has a lot. Let's go over some huge achievements. A winner of the Smogon Championship League 3, part of the Team Studio Gibble. A website content manager, a moderator, and a council member of the Uber's tier as a whole. A top 25 Uber's player of all time, and the winner of the Uber's Live 3 tournament. They've got a stacked resume, great knowledge in Pokemon, but zero Uber's UU tier experience. They'd have to pick up all the common ideas, like Magearna and Chen Pao being tippy-top tiers. Making it more difficult, most of their discussions and experience was with another relatively new player, Frito. Could someone with no Uber's UU experience really climb this epic ladder? The tournament started off strangely for FC, because they got an activity win week 1, but almost were inactive themselves in round 2. Their week 2 opponent was Fishy Roads, a very active ladder player and pillar of the community. Fishy was almost going to claim an inactivity win because FC didn't show up online when they agreed to play. FC arrived just a little late, and right before Fishy actually claimed the win, they let it slide and FC and Fishy got to playing. Game 1 goes immaculately for FC. They're able to maneuver their Necrozma Dawnwings around Fishy Road's now banned Arceus Ghost with Terra Dark, and liberal use of Photon Geyser over Moongeist Beam to help wear down the Terrapagos. Skipping ahead, there's another great play when FC starts baiting their win condition. Toxapex lays down a spike, and then FC switches to Magearna. This is a huge sign for Fishy to switch to Iron Moth, to both absorb the Toxic Spike and threaten the Steel type with a strong fire move. However, FC didn't want Magearna in to do major damage, he wanted to gimp the Moth. With a great Thunder Wave, FC had secured a win condition. Zamazenta was now looking amazing, but body press everything else away, and can tank hits from everything except maybe a lucky Shaman Sky. However, a lucky Choice Scarf Shaman Sky is exactly what Fishy had. However, a Shaman might keep warm with a scarf, but that means its shoe game is severely lacking. FC maneuvers Stealth Rocks onto the field, and then it's game over. Threaten out Shaman and win game 1. Game 2 goes much better for FC. Fishy brings a Trick Room team, which is great when it creates insane momentum that just cannot be stopped by anything, and the setup from the other side can't get going. But wait, this Magearna is boosting up. He used Iron Defense. Oh no, oh no. Once Magearna boosts up enough, it can basically do anything it wants. And what does that end up being? Magearna used Rollout. FC clicks possibly the funniest move, but it doesn't matter whether they click Stored Power, Dazzling Gleam, Rollout, or even Tackle. Look at those stat boosts. Fishy didn't have an answer and got completely swept. We actually covered this hilarious set in much more depth in another Ubers UU video, so you should go check that one out. While you're at it, remember to like and subscribe, and join the Discord if you'd like to play our very fun tier and join our amazing Ubers UU community. Now, FC moves on to the top 8. At this point, money is on the line. $25 just for winning this set of Pokemon. This time, FC was up against Pushi, one of the best non-council members in Ubers UU. They are probably best known for being the leader and founder of Mulch Gang, one of the largest friend communities that grew out of Ubers UU. They are terrifying in their own right, top-8ing plenty of tournaments and being a menace on ladder. FC, inspired by their success of Setup Magearna, brings even more setup Pokemon. The so-called Demon Mag again, Cosmic Power Arceus, and Cosmic Power Deoxys Speed. However, one disadvantage with setup is that you need to get the ball rolling before they do. And that's exactly what Pushi did, bringing their own Calm Mind Giratina, an unusual bring that is a menace with ghost fighting coverage, pressure to stall, incredible defensive bulk, and rest to heal off damage. They enter a PP stalling war between Giratina and Arceus Poison, but Pushi's pressure and inevitable critical hits come out on top, and he takes game 1. FC is one game away from being eliminated. FC is down, so what do? Both players drop the cheesy setup and play a real game. One excellent strategy I'd like to highlight on Pushi's side is Infestation Toxapex, a relatively common move on the Pokemon, but used by Pushi in, to me, an unusual way. Pushi will infest a Pokemon that doesn't want to stay in on a switch to one of Pushi's threatening breakers like Landorus Therian. Then, Pushi has a free switch into Landorus, and almost guarantees the opposing Pokemon will swap out next turn. Therefore, Pushi has a free turn on Landorus to set up Stealth Rocks, get some big damage in, or pivot out for some momentum. This strategy, along with Pushi's Terra-fighting Mewtwo, almost secures the game, but misses a critical Focus Blast against an Urshifu. However, Mewtwo could run Aura Sphere, so that's the risk you have to accept when choosing to run Focus Blast. Urshifu is able to eventually clean up the game, with a nice Sucker Punch prediction and then a clean sweep through the rest of the team. We are at 1-1. In some ways, FC can be marked as a clearly skilled player compared to the Ubers UU player base. This can maybe explain what happened in Game 2. In longer, more thought-out games, the player with the experience can rack up tiny advantages over and over again. So what's the solution to this? Blow them up in 5 turns before they can let loose any of those advantages, before they can rack up. Pushi brings Trick Room with Ursaluna, Hoopa Unbound, and the Krozma Dawnwing as terrifying threats, placing some of FC's speedier Pokemon, like Landorus and Zamazenta, immediately on the back foot. And that's exactly what happens as Ursaluna picks up 2 quick kills against Landorus and Toxapex, important defensive mons. However, These Trick Room teams need to be running items like Eject Pack and Life Orb, which leaves them extremely vulnerable to hazards. FC stacks up the hazards, especially Toxic Spikes, and that spells doom for Pushi's team. Some good defensive play was able to outlast the Trick Room, and hazards went to work. FC earned their $25 and made it into top 4. SBAP was the first person FC faced, who I'd say had a real shot at winning the tournament. They made their name in the scene by being the only person to get a straight 8 wins in a row in the first ever tour, the UUbers Swiss. They then made it all the way to top 4 in the bracket stage of that, and has been respected by the player base ever since. As Game 1 starts, it feels clear that FC was in SBAP's head, with several incredible callouts and double switches. However, a Terror Dark Mewtwo looks like a great way to crack FC's team wide open. It can sit there and threaten Arceus Dark, Landorus, Toxapex, and Necrozma Dawnwings very nicely, especially before we know all its coverage moves. You need to respect Ice Beam, Focus Blast, Fire Blast, and similar moves. Mewtwo suffers a little bit from poor move slot syndrome though. It can't run everything it wants all the time. In a crazy back and forth game, SBAP eventually trades his Great Tusk for a Rapid Spin, but this reveals a huge problem. Mewtwo doesn't have a good way to hit Dark types super effectively, and FC not only has an Arceus Dark, but carried his Necrozma Dawnwings into a Dark type as well. Great Tusk could have been that solution, and maybe Magearna, but Magearna only had Draining Kiss for super effective fairy damage. It's just not enough. FC takes Game 1. In Game 2, FC knows he has a game to experiment with, so he can play around, and oh boy, does he play around. FC brings a Mono Dragon team, and SBAP doesn't have Zacian or Chien-Pao, common Pokemon that could absolutely annihilate the structure. Meanwhile, Necrozma Dawnwing's Terra Fairy could maybe save SBAP, but it gets forced out by Kyurem White, losing all of its boosts. At the end of the day, Pokemon Singles is a game of reads and chance. FC made a bold call and could simply overwhelm SBAP with his Dragon offense. FC is going to Grand Finals. But who is FC's final boss? Maybe the final boss of all Uber's UU. A tournament winner, the council leader, and someone who's been in Uber's UU since day 1. Leo Justice has made it to Grand Finals on the other side of the bracket. This is that ultimate test. Could FC, someone who has never entered an Uber's UU tournament before, stand up to someone with potentially some of the best metagame knowledge in the community? Let's see. Game 1. We have Sticky Web Offense versus FC's Bulky Balance, with Urshifu Single Strike as a main breaker. However, I think the game was really decided just one Pokemon in. FC kept clicking Rapid Spin against Galvantula, but Leo was convinced it would stop or there would be a paralysis, and he could get webs up. That didn't work, and a Sticky Webs team will crumble without Sticky Webs. There was not much to do at that point, so FC starts the Grand Finals up 1-0. Game 2 begins, and Leo has loaded up maybe the most unique offensive strategy in Uber's UU. Shed Tail with fast breakers such as Palkia and Chien-Pao. In no other tier is Shed Tail both legal and as viable as it is here, and this could easily be something that FC doesn't have enough experience to handle, but FC has experience of their own. Maybe borrowing from Pushi in top 8, FC brings their own Calm Mind Giratina. However, it gets forced out by the set Arceus. Judgment, Taunt, Calm Mind, and Recover, one of the most common and powerful sets in Uber's UU. It worked great for Pushi when FC didn't bring that set, but Leo brought this standard idea, which will shut down a cheesy Giratina. Suddenly, FC is relying on Sludge Bomb RNG to break down this Arceus. Eventually, FC manages to find an opening, force the Arceus out, and then the advantage swaps. Leo starts fishing for some Ancient Power Omni boosts on Palkia, but at that point, you've pretty much lost. Calm Mind Garatina sweeps the game. FC is up 2-0. But I just said up 2-0. The tour is not over. Grand Finals is a best of 5. FC needs one more game to sweep the floor and show Uber's UU who's boss. FC has games to spare, so they do something they've done before. Bring something cheesy, bring something a little bit fun, bring a surprise factor. That time, this cheese is a mono dark team. Dark and Dragon are two of the best and most common types in Uber's UU, so he's not just pulling these out of a hat spontaneously. Qian Pao, Chi-Yu, and Arceus Dark are some of the best breakers that the tier has to offer. Leo's Chen Pao picks up some early kills, but Garganical going down on Leo's side reveals a big weakness to fire moves. Fire moves? FC has the funny fish. Leo potentially had one more out with Great Tusk, but it gets crippled with an uncommon Arceus Will-O-Wisp. I say uncommon, but I really think FC changed the meta with this play, and now Will-O-Wisp Arceus is much more common if you queue up on ladder today. Back then, it was much more oriented towards the set, but FC used Will-O-Wisp, changed the game, and won the game. FC wins $100 and sweeps the Epic Ladder Gaming Tournament, only dropping a single game. Huge congratulations to them and to all the competitors who made it deep in the bracket. FC was a titan of the Uber's UU community, and really, he came from the older Smogon generations. Now, it was kind of expected that someone like him would just come in and completely clear the table, wipe all of us over. But honestly, I think that's good, even though it kind of makes us look a little silly. Uber's UU is a community that is really formed in Generation 9. We're formed from Redditors, we're formed from people who like watching YouTube, and this means we're not that great. But that's okay. Players like FC coming in and pushing the meta, introducing things like Urshifu Single Strike, increasing their viability, Will-O-Wisp Arceus, or Demon Magearna. Those sorts of meta developments are exactly what we need now that we're starting to get a little older and getting a little more established, and we have a serious metagame here. And lastly, I just want to point out that we have a new competition coming up. The Uber's UU Seasonal is happening right now. FC is in it, Pushi is in it, Leo Justice is in it, even I'm in it. I managed to not get knocked out round 1. So I hope you guys come follow that, join the rest of the Uber's UU community on the Discord, like the video, and I'll see you guys next time.